My dear, they watched you, didn't they? Oh, they smiled, they laughed, they clapped, they cheered like little children at a circus as you fell. They saw it all, your downfall, your collapse, your moment of weakness, and they reveled in it. They believed you were weak. They believed you were finished. You were nothing but another casualty, another pawn to sacrifice on the altar of their grand plans. They felt invincible, victorious even. The very thought of seeing you brought down sent them into a frenzy of self-congratulation. Their eyes gleamed with that twisted satisfaction, and they rubbed their hands together in delight, thinking they had won. But what they don't realize, what they could never understand, is that your fall, your destruction, it wasn't your defeat, it was theirs. Every cheer, every mockery they made, every little taunt they whispered in the shadows was nothing more than the sound of their own grave being dug deeper. You see, their victory was never their own. It was a hollow illusion, a desperate attempt to exert power over something they couldn't comprehend. It was you who set the stage, you who laid the traps, you who played them all for fools. They thought they had crushed you, erased you from existence, thrown you into oblivion. How quaint, how predictable. And yet, they never stopped to consider one simple thing. Who was in control the entire time? They thought they had you cornered. They thought the game was over. Their celebrations were loud, boisterous, laced with that false confidence that only fools possess. But all the while, you were watching. You were calculating, waiting, absorbing every petty attack, every jab, every insult, every attempt to break you. You let them, didn't you? You let them believe they were winning. You let them tear at your very essence, all the while biding your time. The world is full of people like them, people so consumed by their own desire to dominate, to win, that they never stop to look beyond their small, fragile victories. They never stop to consider that maybe, just maybe, their victories are the very thing that is going to destroy them in the end. Isn't it poetic? How simple it is to play them, to lead them into thinking they're in control, to let them dance in their own delusion, and then, when the time is right, watch them fall apart. Because that's what happens when you let people think they've defeated you. They celebrate, they gloat, they laugh in your face. But the moment they realize the truth, the moment they understand what you've done to them, oh, that's when the real destruction begins. It's in that moment, when the mask falls, when the facade cracks, that they truly see the consequences of their arrogance. And when they look at you, when they see you standing tall, rising from the ashes they thought they buried you in, they'll understand. They'll finally understand that they were never the victors. You were always the one pulling the strings. They never once suspected the truth, did they? They never once stopped to wonder why you took their blows so quietly. They thought it was weakness, didn't they? The silence, the restraint, the patience. It baffled them, didn't it? How could you just stand there and take it, like some fragile creature waiting for its fate? Oh, they were so wrong. It wasn't weakness. It was strength. The ability to withstand, to endure, to wait for the precise moment when the power would shift. The moment they would realize that every action they took, every celebration of your destruction, was simply a step in your plan. You wanted them to think they were winning. You wanted them to believe they had the upper hand. Because you knew You knew that once they were deep enough in their delusion, there would be no escape. And now, they're beginning to feel it, aren't they? The first whispers of doubt, the smallest crack in their facade. You can see it in their eyes, can't you? The realization creeping in. They thought they broke you, but the truth is, they broke themselves. Because the moment they celebrated your fall, they sealed their own fate. The moment they reveled in your suffering, they laid the groundwork for their own demise. What they didn't know, what they could never have imagined, is that you didn't fall. You let them think they won. And now you've become the storm they never saw coming. And the best part? You didn't even have to lift a finger. Oh no, you didn't need to fight back. You didn't need to play their game. You didn't need to stoop to their level. You let them do it for you. Their arrogance, their pride, their overwhelming sense of superiority, that's what's going to destroy them. That's what will tear them apart. Because they thought their victory over you was the end. But it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of their downfall. They'll watch. Oh, they'll watch, won't they? They'll watch as you rise, as you take your place among the wreckage they thought they had left behind. They'll watch as they realize that they were the ones who were destroyed. The beauty of it is, they won't even know how to respond. They won't understand how you managed to turn the tables, how you let them win so you could win in the end. And that will haunt them. That will torment them. And when the truth settles in, when they can no longer deny it, when they can no longer pretend they weren't played like fools, oh, that's when the chaos will begin. But here's the twist, the part they never saw coming. You see, they thought they'd reached the pinnacle of their success. They celebrated their perceived victory over you, basking in their triumph, thinking they had broken you, shattered you into pieces they could sweep away like dirt beneath their shoes. Oh, how sweet the illusion tasted to them. They believed they were the ones in control, that they were the ones calling the shots, pulling the strings while you languished in despair. And for a moment, that false narrative was the only one they could see. But what they never understood was this. The moment you stopped fighting, the moment you let them think they had the upper hand, the entire game shifted. And now, they're stuck in their own creation. They thought they had destroyed you, turned your world upside down, crushed your spirit. What they didn't count on was this, your resilience. The thing about strength, true strength, is that it's not always visible. It's not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it waits. And sometimes it's so patient that it becomes its own weapon, a weapon they never even saw coming. You didn't need to fight back. No, all you had to do was let them think they had succeeded. But here's the thing about illusions. They're fragile, and they crumble the moment reality sets in. They were never truly in control, were they? No. They never understood the power of what they were dealing with. They never knew the depths of your resilience, how you could withstand the weight of their cruelty without breaking. They thought they could crush you, but they forgot one crucial detail. What they were fighting wasn't weakness. It was your patience, your ability to endure, your willingness to play the long game, knowing that their arrogance would be their downfall. They thought you were down for the count, thought you would stay down, that they could bury you in a shallow grave of their own making. But what they didn't see, what they couldn't grasp, was that you were never truly buried. Oh no, you were simply waiting. You were waiting for the moment when the ground beneath their feet would crack, waiting for them to fall into their own trap, waiting for them to believe they had outsmarted you. And when that moment came, when they took that false victory for granted and thought they had finally beaten you, that's when the truth revealed itself. Now they see the truth. Now they realize their mistake. But it's far too late. They've already stepped too far down the path. They thought they'd won. But what they've really done is dug their own grave. They're trapped in a web they spun themselves, a web of lies, manipulation, and deceit. They're caught in the very system they created to destroy you, and now they'll pay the price. They'll pay for every tiny detail they overlooked, for every moment of arrogance, for every ounce of confidence they placed in their own false power. Because that's the thing about lies. They always come back to haunt you. At first, they'll try to hold on. They'll fight against the truth, resist the inevitable collapse of their facade. But it won't matter. Because resistance is futile. They can't stop what's coming. The reality they tried to bury will rise to the surface, no matter how hard they try to silence it. And when it does, when they finally have to face the consequences of their actions, the consequences of their betrayal, they'll realize just how far they've fallen. They'll realize that the power they once had is now nothing more than a shadow of what it used to be. Their empire of manipulation will crumble, and with it, so will their sense of superiority. They'll try to play the victim, of course. They'll claim they're misunderstood, that they never meant for things to go this far. But no one will be listening. No one will care. The truth has already spoken, and it's louder than any of their lies. They can cry, they can scream, they can beg for mercy, but none of it will matter. The damage they've done is irreparable. Their empire, once built on lies and manipulation, will begin to crumble like sand castles before the tide. And they'll be left to watch as everything they worked for fades away, slipping through their fingers like the very control they thought they had. And they won't be able to escape it. They'll try to outrun the truth, try to bury it deeper, but it's too late. The damage has been done. The wheels of fate are in motion, and they can't stop them. Every effort to regain control will be met with failure. Every attempt to rebuild will be nothing more than a futile exercise in denial. They will be forced to watch as the pieces of their life, their carefully crafted lies, their manipulations, all of it disintegrates before their eyes. But that's where the real horror begins, because they will realize something far worse than just the loss of their power. They'll realize that they've lost themselves. They've lost their identity, their sense of self. They've become nothing more than shadows, echoes of the people they once were. And as they look around at the wreckage they've left behind, they'll wonder if they'll ever be able to put the pieces back together. But they won't. They can't. Not this time. They'll come to understand, in the most painful way, that their manipulation, their lies, their false sense of superiority, it was never enough to save them. They will be consumed by their own downfall, unable to escape the consequences of their actions. And no matter how hard they try, no matter how much they beg, there will be no mercy. They will be left to face the full extent of their betrayal, and they will have no one to blame but themselves. And that, my friend, is the ultimate irony, because the ones who celebrated your destruction will be the ones who suffer the most in the end. They thought they could control you, break you, destroy you. But all they've done is seal their own fate. And now they will be forced to confront the truth they tried so hard to bury. They'll be left to wonder how they didn't see it coming, how they missed the signs. And as the weight of their mistake crashes down on them, they'll realize that the real victory was never in your defeat. It was in their own self-destruction. Now, as they stand amidst the ruins of their shattered empire, they'll know it. They'll know that they were never in control. They'll know that they were always pawns in a game they didn't even understand. And they'll be forced to accept the bitter truth. They've lost. You never needed to fight back. You just needed to let them think they won. And when they've exhausted every ounce of energy, when they've thrown every last piece of their pride into the fire, when they've nothing left but the cold, empty remnants of their shattered dreams, they'll understand. They'll understand that you were always in control. And no matter how hard they try, they'll never escape that truth. They thought they could destroy you. They thought they could break you into pieces and leave you forgotten in the darkness. But now, they're left in the ruins of their own creation, surrounded by the wreckage of everything they once believed in. They'll stand there, looking at the crumbling walls of their empire, wondering where it all went wrong. But the truth is, they knew exactly where it went wrong. They just couldn't admit it. They were too blinded by their own arrogance, too consumed by their false sense of power to see that the real victory was never in breaking you. The real victory was in you letting them believe they had won. Because that's the thing about control. It's an illusion. It's fragile. It can break in an instant. And when it does, it leaves nothing but emptiness in its wake. And now, as they stand in that emptiness, they'll realize the horrifying truth. The victory they celebrated was nothing more than a mirage, and the price they've paid for their delusion will be far greater than anything they ever imagined. They'll come to understand that the true cost of their actions wasn't the damage they did to you. No, the true cost was the damage they did to themselves. They destroyed their own sense of self, their own integrity, their own belief in what truly matters, all for the illusion of power, for the fleeting satisfaction of watching you suffer. But the thing about suffering is that it doesn't last forever. Pain may linger for a while, but eventually it fades. And when the pain fades, what remains is the strength you gained from enduring it. They thought they could weaken you, tear you down, turn you into nothing more than a shadow of your former self. But in reality, they only forged something stronger. Every moment of their manipulation, every lie they told, every attempt to control you only made you more resilient, more capable of withstanding the storms they tried to send your way. As they realize this truth, the cracks in their foundation will begin to show. They'll feel the weight of their choices pressing down on them, crushing them from within. The guilt will gnaw at them, eating away at the very core of who they are. They'll try to run from it, try to drown it in distractions, but it will always be there, lurking in the back of their minds. They'll try to silence the truth, but no matter how hard they try, it will scream louder than their lies ever could. And they'll come to understand something even more devastating. They'll realize that their destruction of you was never about you. It was about them. It was about their need to control, to manipulate, to prove to themselves that they could win. They never cared about you. They never cared about your suffering. They only cared about themselves, about their fragile ego, about their desperate need to feel superior. But in the end, that superiority was nothing more than a mask. And once that mask is ripped away, all that's left is a hollow shell, a broken, empty person who has nothing to show for their victories but a trail of destruction. What's left for them now? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They've lost everything that mattered: their sense of self, their integrity, their pride. They've stripped themselves of everything that could have made them whole, and all they're left with is the cold, bitter taste of regret. They'll try to salvage what they can, but it won't matter. The damage is irreversible. They've burned every bridge, shattered every bond, and now they'll be forced to live with the consequences of their actions. And the worst part, they'll never be able to undo it. They can't go back to a time when they still had control, when they still thought they could dictate the outcome of this game. Because that time is gone, and it's never coming back. They'll try to rebuild, of course. They'll try to patch up the broken pieces, try to make it look like they've learned their lesson. But it will be a lie. They can never fix what they've broken. Because the thing about trust is that once it's shattered, it can never truly be restored. And the thing about power is that once it's lost, it's almost impossible to regain. They'll be trapped in their own web, struggling to find a way out. But there will be no escape. Because no matter how hard they try to pull themselves together, they'll always remember what they did to you. They'll always know that they were the ones who played the game of destruction. And now they'll be forced to live with the consequences of their own actions. And here's the beauty of it. They'll never be able to shake the feeling that you're still there, lurking in the shadows, watching them as they try to piece together the fragments of their shattered empire. They'll know, deep down, that you were always one step ahead. They'll know that they were never truly in control. And that knowledge, that bitter realization, will haunt them for the rest of their lives. They'll look over their shoulder, wondering when you'll strike again, wondering when the next blow will come. They'll wonder if you're just waiting for them to slip up, waiting for them to make another mistake, so you can deliver the final blow. But they'll never see it coming. You'll never need to strike. They've already done the work for you. Their own actions, their own choices, have sealed their fate. All you had to do was stand back and watch as they dug their own grave. And that's where the real power lies. The power of patience. The power of restraint. The power of knowing that sometimes the best way to win is to let your enemies destroy themselves. Because when they're left standing in the ruins of their own making, there's nothing left for them to hold on to. No illusions, no control, no victory. Just the cold, harsh reality that they've lost everything. And as they stand there, broken and defeated, they'll realize the truth, that they tried so desperately to deny. They'll understand that the destruction they once celebrated was never about you. It was about them. It was about their own fear, their own insecurities, and their own need to prove something that didn't need proving. And when they finally accept that, when they finally face the truth of their own destruction, they'll know that there's no escape. They'll be trapped in the mess they've made, forever haunted by the knowledge that they were never really in control. You, on the other hand, will be free, free to rise above it all, free to move on, free to build something new from the ashes of their defeat. And while they'll be left to suffer the consequences of their own actions, you'll be the one who walks away with the last laugh. Because in the end, they played the game of destruction, and you won without ever lifting a finger.